13 years ago today, October 29th, Superstorm Sandy made landfall in New Jersey, changing the Jersey Shore forever. Last night, we saw Melissa make landfall in Cuba after making a historic landfall in Jamaica, changing perhaps the Caribbean forever. And while there are differences between the two storms, at the end of the day, the impacts are really about the same, and I'll show you why here. We know the landfall locations are different. And Melissa is a much stronger storm than Sandy ever was. Maximum sustained winds at landfall, 189 miles an hour. That's in a tie for the strongest landfall sustained winds on record in the Atlantic Hurricane Basin going back to the mid-1800s. More than double what Sandy was. But what Sandy lacked in strength, it made up for in size. And to this day, it is still the largest storm on record in the Atlantic Hurricane Basin. When you look at the size of its tropical storm force wind fields, 39 miles an hour or greater, it's nearly triple what Melissa was and is on Wednesday, October 29th. But when you combine the power and the impact together, they're both about the same. Melissa has the slight edge, but this is according to WeatherBell, which is a consulting company in New York City. When they look at this formula to show what the total scope of the power and the strength and the impact of the storm is, Sandy, a category 3.7, above the category 1 if you just look at the sustained winds alone, which is what the Saffir-Simpson scale is. Melissa, meanwhile, a 3.9, lower than the category 5 that it is on the Saffir-Simpson scale, because Sandy was so large in size, it was able to make up for the strength that Jamaica had. So they both end up about the same. Now, when we take a look at the coastal flooding, that was the biggest impact from Sandy, the surge in the water. Most places in the 24 plus locations that New Jersey has for tide gauges has Sandy as the strongest and the highest tide on record. But there were 5 locations where it wasn't. And that includes Cape May, where Winter Storm Jonas in 2016 was actually higher than Sandy. Atlantic City and Ocean City, where a 1992 nor'easter was higher than Sandy. Then we have South Dennis in Cape May County. Hurricane Gloria in 1985 had a higher tide than Sandy. And in Margate, where the historic 1962 storm had a higher tide than Sandy, and there it was by almost 2 feet higher here. But most places, Sandy was the highest. And for all these 5 locations you see here, it was in the top 3. Either way, as we reflect upon Superstorm Sandy today, think about where you were and what you were doing, and maybe what you would do if Sandy was to hit this year. Hopefully, we remain superstorm free for years and decades to come, but it's always important to have a go bag and to prepare all the time during hurricane season. Weather Call will call, text, or email you when tornado and severe thunderstorm warnings hit your area. Sign up for just $15 a year at the link in this description.